Good morning, everyone. This morning, I'm going to show you how to make cold brew coffee. You don't have to go to a Starbucks or other coffee shops and spend $3, $4, $5 for a cup of cold brew coffee. You can easily make it at home, and it's going to be delicious, I promise you. You don't need any special tools. I mean, you'll need a couple things, but most items you probably have in your kitchen already. And if you don't have them, you can get them pretty cheaply. First, let's go over what you'll need to make cold brew coffee. Okay, so here's everything you'll need to make cold brew coffee. First, you'll need coffee. My recommendation is to get whole bean instead of pre-ground coffee. Pre-ground coffees are never fresh. You need a freshest coffee bean in order to get the most delicious coffee. Second, you'll need a scale. And I just have this digital scale I got from Amazon. Third, you'll need some way to grind that whole bean. I have just a manual grinder. But as far as the grinder, I would recommend you get the burr grinder instead of blade grinders because they heat up and it could actually spoil the taste of coffee while you grind the coffee. Always recommend you get burr grinder, which smashes coffee bean instead of slicing it. You'll need a filter. If you don't have this, you can use paper filter, but paper filter will take a lot longer to drain the coffee when you filter the coffee out. And lastly, you'll need a couple of glass mason jars. These are, I believe, 700 milliliter, but you can get bigger ones if you drink a lot of coffee. When I use these mason jars, they last me at least 3 days. You don't want to keep cold brew coffee in your refrigerator no more than 3 days in order to have the most fresh cold brew coffee. Okay, so in order to make cold brew coffee on this mason jar, this small size mason jar, which is about 700 or 720 milliliter to the mouth of the mason jar, I need 90 grams of coffee. So the way the math works is it's a 1:8 ratio, which means 1 part coffee and 8 part water. So if I use 90 grams of coffee here, that means I'll need 720 grams of water. The math again is, 90 times 8 is 720. So if I put 720 grams of water with 90 grams of coffee, it comes up to about top of the rim here, which is basically perfect for me anyway. Now, if you read online, some people suggest higher ratio or lower ratio. But my experience is that if you go below 1:8, so let's say you do like 1:7 or 1:6, the coffee will soak up all the water, most of the water, and you're not going to get much coffee out of it. And it's got to be really, really strong. And you want a strong cold brew coffee because you're going to be adding ice to it anyway. But I noticed that 1:6, even 1:7 is too strong, and you're not getting much coffee out of it. So I found that 1:8 ratio is like the perfect middle ground. Anyway, let me go and grind some coffee. Obviously, I just have this manual grinder, which doesn't grind much coffee beans. So if you have a larger coffee grinder, this process will take a lot faster. And what you want is coarse ground. And I'm just noticing that this actually is a little bit too fine, so I need to adjust so that this is a little bit more coarser. All right, so as you can see, I have 90 grams of coffee. I went a little over 90, but that's fine. And like I said, it should be coarse ground. Okay, so now I'm going to pour in 720 grams of water. Again, the math is 1:8, so 90 times 8 is 720. First, I'm going to zero out the scale. And I'm going to pour in some water now. And obviously you want to use cold water. You don't want to use any hot water for this. Again, it should be 720. Oh, almost. A little more. Oh, I went a little over, but that's fine. All right, so next I'm just gonna stir it a little bit. I noticed that depending on what type of bean you use, sometimes it's a little too much, right? I think I use a darker bean this time. They are usually a little more heavier, so maybe I should use a little less coffee bean. I'm gonna turn this off actually. Sometimes I use lighter bean because lighter beans they're roasted longer, so they're lighter. I mean, literally lighter. Not in just a color, but as a weight. So darker beans are much heavier. So again, if it was lighter bean, it wouldn't be this like overflowing. But this is fine here. All right. I'm just gonna clean up the mouth a little bit. And now there's nothing else you have to do. All you do is just close it up and leave it on your counter for 24 hours. Actually, you don't even have to leave it for 24 hours. Maybe, I think at least 16 hours, basically overnight. So now I'm just gonna leave this on my counter and I'm gonna filter out the coffee to the other mason jar and we'll be ready to go. So I will see you tomorrow morning. Okay, so it is next day and we are ready to filter out the coffee ground from the coffee we made yesterday using this metal filter. And again, if you don't have this filter, you could use the paper filter, but I highly recommend using something more substantial, something more strong like the Chemex paper filter. Because if you use just regular, drip coffee filter, the bottom will just fall out and you're gonna create a big mess. So if you have to use paper filter, you have to use something more substantial like Chemex filter. But again, this will take a lot longer. Again, you can get something like this from Amazon. It's like probably 10 bucks. All right, so let me go and move this stuff to the sink. I don't want to do it on the counter because it could get messy. Okay, so this coffee has been brewing on my counter for about 24 hours overnight. After you open it, you'll see that there's a nice crust formed on the top. So you want to kind of break that off before you start pouring. You don't want to stir it too much. Most of the coffee ground has settled at the bottom, and that's actually what you want. So just break off the top crust and just start pouring into the new mason jar. Carefully, obviously. And again, because the most of the coffee ground has already settled at the bottom, you could just pour it, but towards the end, I like to use the top of the mason jar, the lids, to kind of filter out the ground even more before it gets to the filter. All right, I think that's about it. I got maybe a few more drip. You don't want to waste any coffee, right? So, okay, I think that's good enough. So after filtering out the coffee ground, we are left with almost 550 milliliter of concentrated cold brew coffee, which is really good. This should last me at least 3-4 days, I think. I'm actually really happy with it. I like to add about 2/3 coffee and 1/3 milk. So I already added some ice in my cup. If you want to drink it straight, I would definitely add some water because this is definitely concentrated coffee. Okay, so I'm going to put just about that much, but again, about 2/3. And I just like to add some milk. This is where if you have milk frother, it will really make a great cafe latte, I think. But I don't have it, so I just shake it. Whenever I have a little bit of milk left in my milk carton, I just shake it and it creates a very nice foam. And then just top it off, I just add a little bit of cinnamon, sprinkle in some cinnamon on top. So I think this turned out pretty good. What do you think? All right, cheers. Yeah, delicious. I think if I wait a couple more minutes for the ice to melt a little more, I think it's gonna be even better. And I think you're gonna really like it if you try it as well. So let me know if you try it and see how it turns out. I hope this video was helpful to you guys, and let me know if you have any questions, okay? And as always, be kind to yourself and to others. All right, catch you guys next time. Cheers.